My name's Courtney Kalbach. I'm an instructional technology coach in Red Clay. And I have my partner here today, Karen Ammon, who is also an instructional technology coach in Red Clay. And today we are going to do our hangout, our webinar for Schoology from the beginning, and this is part 2. We always like to start with information about ourselves and how you get help from the instructional technology team. So here's our website, and there are the instructions on how you get to our website. So here we are. Inside Red Clay, you go to Working Here, then Instructional Technology, and here's our website. I want to draw your attention today to the professional development opportunities. We've just added a couple of new webinars. All of them are down here on our online professional development. So we have a couple more blended learning webinars, and then we added a 4th Schoology from the beginning webinar. And we've also decided the topics for our instructional technology nights. Tomorrow we have an instructional technology night, and we'll be talking about Canva, Google Sites, and Powtoon. They're all tools that you can use for creation. And also Google Sites is a way then that you can connect with other people and share information with others. On January 29th, we'll have a social studies focus. On the 27th, the focus will be, February 27th will be science. And then on March 18th, the focus will be math. So all of these nights, though, even though we're focusing on a content area, we're still going to make sure that the skills and the strategies and the tools are applicable to all teachers, no matter what subject you teach. So it doesn't matter what you teach, you're still welcome to come to any of those nights. And then here is our instructional technology Schoology group. So here is the code if you want to join it. We post updates in there also. And then here are our Twitter handles. So you can follow us on Twitter if you want to also. Okay, so make sure that you introduce yourself in the chat. We'll be checking the chat and see who's there. And then at the end, we'll give you the form that you can complete, the exit ticket. And then after that, that's how we give you your attendance in DSC. Then you can put in for 1 hour of EPR in timesheets in DSC. Okay, so this is Schoology from the beginning, part 2. Even if you weren't here for part 1, that's okay. You could still watch this. Or if you know some of this stuff and you're watching the recording later on, you could fast forward to the parts that you just want to learn about. So Karen will be starting with the course landing page, and then she'll go to updates and course announcements, the course picture, members and parent codes, and then I'll talk about grading, grading groups, grade setup, gradebook, and mastery. Okay?
Sounds great, Courtney. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. So we are going to talk about that landing page for the course. You can see here, I'm in my course called Sandbox, and my landing page is my materials tab, which is the first one here on the left, and displaying all my materials for the course. But I have options as far as where I want my courses to land. For example, I can choose between the materials or the updates tab. Some teachers like to have the updates show because they can leave a message to the class as soon as they come in. So maybe with a do now or some sort of note that they need or homework that they need to bring to their students' attention. So the way that you change this is under course options here, under the picture, and then down to edit privacy. And at the very bottom of this screen, is where you have your default landing page. So materials or updates. So on a course-by-course basis, you can decide which you prefer to have your students land on, whether it's the materials tab and right away they can get to work, or whether it's updates where you can leave your class a message and keep them focused as they're walking in for the day. Totally a teacher choice and at your fingertips. So that's pretty neat. I like that, the idea that you can customize for your class. So the next is the idea of the course updates.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see if I save changes. My screen seems to be stuck right here. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So if we come back to the main page, which is still my materials because I didn't actually change that, and take a look at updates, I am able to post messages to my course. So you see there's a couple here that are posted from previous years. And I can say homework due on Friday. And if I go ahead and post that, you'll see it comes up to the top here. Okay. I can also attach in a post a file or a link or something from my resources. I can audio support or video my message. I could take a poll. So we could say poll. What are you doing for winter break? No homework. Sleeping. Could add options. Visiting family. And, we can keep going here. Sleeping and eating. Okay. And then I can post my poll. And then the members of my class can go ahead and vote what their favorite is. So that's kind of neat. The other thing that I can do is maybe I have an announcement that I want to make, and I want to make sure that this announcement stays at the top of my updates page because I really need to call attention to it, and it's important that students don't miss it. So maybe for that, it's field trip. Form is due. So here what I can do is use my drop down for my call out, and I could put it on Twitter, I can put it on Facebook, but I can also do this bell option, which says mark as an update or mark as an announcement. And when I do that and I post, it posts now up at the top as an announcement, and it's going to stay there until I decide to remove it. So unlike these announcements that the newest one comes to the top and it pushes all the old ones down, this will remain always at the top of the screen. Okay. So course updates and landing pages. So now you understand the difference between both of those options. One of the things that we really suggest, particularly for secondary teachers and for specialist teachers in the elementary world, is to identify each course with a separate picture. Because when you start to get multiple sections, it gets really complicated to remember 4-4 is period 2. Or room 300 is Mrs. White's classroom. So we suggest changing and editing the picture as well for little kids too. Even if you're just an elementary school teacher and you're with your class all day in the room, even marking it with different pictures for different subject areas makes it easier for kids to click on the course that you are referencing. So to do that, you simply hover over the picture and then click Edit Pictures. And Schoology actually this year has given some stock pictures to choose from, or you can attach your own picture. So I have a bunch of pictures that are uploaded here for various purposes. Here's one that Courtney just showed you from our website. So I'm just simply going to upload it. And And that looks good. It kind of gives you a little preview over here. And I can just close this window, and now my picture has been set. So that's pretty easy. Okay. And then one last area that I want to talk about real quick is the Members tab. So over here on the left, we have Members. Now, for most courses, especially those that are coming over from eSchool, you don't really have to do too much to this Members tab. Automatically, your students are enrolled, and you are in it as the teacher. Occasionally, though, under circumstances where there's more than one teacher, whether it be a paraprofessional or a special education push-in, you may want to add another teacher. So to do that, you click Add Members, and it's going to default to your school building. For Courtney and I, it defaults to Red Clay. So if I wanted to add somebody from, let's say, Forest Oak, I'm going to search Forest Oak. Maybe you have a great working relationship with a teacher in another building. You can add them to your course simply by changing the building up at the top there and searching for them. So now that I'm in Forest Oak, let's see if I can find, let's see if I spelled, nope, I didn't spell it right, did I? Is there a space or a, there you are, I found you. And now I can add Janine to my course, and she's going to come in as a student. So all new entries come in as students. So if I want to share my role as admin or give this person access as an admin to the course, I need to go in and manually do that. And now you see Janine pops up to the top with me in that admin role. Okay, so now she would have access to the course and the course materials like any other teacher. Really important if there's a long-term sub. So if you had time to prepare for a long-term sub, like for a maternity leave, and the person's hired in enough time, we can add, or you can add them into your own courses so that they're able to take over and keep going. You never want to take out the original person of record unless they've truly left Red Clay. You want to leave them in so that when they step back into their role, they are able to resume as a teacher as well. Okay, so let's say I wanted to add additional members. So maybe from Red Clay, I want to put Jody in my course and maybe Dawn Bart's in my course and Geisha. So you notice I can kind of go through here and cherry pick a whole bunch of names. I think I know him. Pick a whole bunch of different names here all at one time, and I can add members at once. So this kind of becomes important if you're creating a group, maybe for RTI or an after-school club, and you need to cherry pick in members, then you can go through and simply type in their name, and I can select Courtney here. And then you notice I have still 6 people selected. So all the ones from the previous screen, plus I searched out Courtney. So that just gets added to the 6 people that if I clicked add members would automatically fall into this course. I'm not going to do that right now though, because some of them would get really upset if they suddenly are in my course. So I'm going to click cancel. Last thing on this screen I want to highlight are the parent access codes that sit down here in a very, quite frankly, obscure blue type. So if this was a group of students in a math class, let's say, or my science class, and I wanted to send home the course codes for parents so that they could create a Schoology account, I can simply click the parent access code button, and I can download it, and it will come in as a CSV file. I'm going to go ahead and open it. I'm going to see if it's viewable to you guys or whether you're going to stay here on Schoology or not. But if I open it, Courtney, let me know if it pops up. Of course, Excel takes a long time to open.
Yeah.
But it'll come up, and it's going to have a whole bunch of information on those students. So it's going to have like student ID, name, it may have account information, and one of the different fields in the Excel file is going to be the parent access code. So you can delete out all the extraneous information that you're not really needing and get right down to those parent access codes and send them home in a letter to parents. We do on our website have parent letters created if you wanted to use one of those or adapt one of those. Certainly it's up to you. If you'd rather write your own letter, that's totally fine too. So this is taking forever, so we won't wait on this. But really great tool to know about parent access codes, because at the beginning of the school year when principals are asking for them, I tend to send a batch file with every single student in alphabetical order for the entire school, which makes it a little bit more difficult to access. Can you see this Excel file, Courtney?
No.
No. Okay. So it just opened. So I was right. There are there's about 7 different fields. So it's Schoology ID, something called unique ID, which doesn't really matter to anybody outside the tech office. Last name, first name, middle name, parent access code. So you literally can delete out everything that you need except for the student name and the parent access code. So it's not as cumbersome as I actually thought it was. So good to know there. Okay.
Yep.
All right, Courtney, I'm going to pass it back over to you, and I'm going to die coughing over here because I've been holding it in this whole time.
Okay. Okay, just to show you the information about the parent access codes that Karen was talking about. So working here, instructional technology. This was right here on our front tile. So you could, it's this yellow one, parent access to Schoology, or you go to Schoology and here we go, parent access. So this is some information for the teachers. This gives you the instructions on how to download the codes, which Karen just showed you. And then here are the letters that you could send home to families, English and Spanish. And we have information here too for parents on how to use their code. So once they get the code, what they need to do to sign up. And there's like a little parent demo here. Some more information for families. And then this is this is like the family Red Clay page. Inside Red Clay is really supposed to be for just employees of Red Clay. But this is the website that is the family side, the public side. If you go to For Families, then at the very bottom it says technology support. This is some more information. You could just send families this link. It has all this information about Chromebooks, Google, but if you click here, Schoology information for families, this is that same information. We just took out the part for the teachers. So this is, you could just send this link right to parents too if they need help. Okay, so next I'm going to get into some of the grading features in Schoology, like grading groups, grade setup, gradebook, and mastery. Okay, so this is my demo course. So I have some assignments here. We haven't even gotten into materials yet. We're going to save that for part 3. We wanted to go through and talk about some of the other features that you kind of need to know about before you start even building materials. So we're trying to, instead of working backwards, which is normally happens when you use Schoology, you get started with all the materials and then you learn about all the other features. We're trying to backfill and give you all of the additional information you need, and then we'll get into how to build materials next time. So we're over here in members. So this is where Karen left off. So I've added some of you who are on the webinar to my members. So I followed those directions that Karen just showed you. And now I'm going to put you in some grading groups. So just like how the parent code information over here was kind of obscure, so is how to create grading groups. So Schoology has an individually assigned feature, they call it. So when we add materials, we can assign these materials to just individual students, or we could assign them to a grading group. So that means, let's say I have my students in reading groups. So I have the monkeys, the lizards, and the toucans. Those were actually my groups in my class. So let's say that my monkeys are my below level, lizards are on level, and toucans are the advanced group. So I could put these grading groups into Schoology, and then when I'm adding in my materials, I can give differentiated materials to those different groups. So I could ask my below level students to do certain assignments. I could ask my on level group to do some different assignments, and even my advanced group to do other assignments. So let's set up those groups. Let's take a look at that. So we're over here on the right, and I'm hovering over these dotted lines here. So once I put my cursor in the box, it says organize members into grading groups. And once I click that, it turns into add grading group. So these are all the students in my class. I can only customize the groups based upon the students in my class. So I could create a group. So let's do the lizards. So I'll put these students in the lizards and create that group. So now you see underneath their name, that's one of their groups. So let's do another. We could call this the monkeys, and we'll put my other students. You could begin to type students here too, and then they start coming up. Like if you have a very long list, so create. So now these students are in the monkeys group. Let's say I have groups for something else. Maybe I have groups based on how students are set up in the classroom. So I could have table 1, or I'm sorry, let's add the grading group, and let's put table 1 in here. So now students are in a different group. So you could add as many grading groups as you want. Students can be in multiple different groups. Students do not ever see the name of their group on their account. However, we would just recommend that you don't really put like special ed group or below level reading group, because you never know, like when someone else could see this page, or it comes up on a smart board. So just be cognizant of what you're naming your groups, just in case somebody happened to see it. Over here are my groups on the right. So if the first marking period is over, or I change tables and I want to change the group, I can always edit the members of the group and add or take away the students. And then this is how you would also delete the group. Okay, so that's how you add grading groups. So now let's go into grade setup. So next time we'll show you why that's important. You added the grading groups. Like I said, you can assign materials to certain groups or even just individuals, and then only those students that are assigned that work would be able to see it. So thinking of grading, whatever you're assigning to the students, that's what would get graded for that student. So if there's a test, you'd probably assign it to everybody. So you don't need to assign it to a group or a student. If you don't individually assign it, it gets assigned to everyone. So I have now clicked Grade Setup. And grade setup is important to do before you decide to use the gradebook. And it's especially important to use and look at if you're going to sync your grades from Schoology to eSchool. So up here, I've added my grading categories. So this would be kind of the same thing that you do if you give grades in eSchool. You would give the same grading categories that you use in eSchool in Schoology. So I added formative and summative. You can add as many or as little grading categories as you want. You just click this add button. name it, name the category, assess whatever you want. I would stick with matching what I have in eSchool, just in case I ever decide one day I want to sync my grades to eSchool if I teach in grades 4 through 12. Keep it as total points, and you can decide to drop the lowest if you want to. Okay, so create. You can also weight the categories here. I know that for secondary schools, formative and summative grades are weighted, so you can weight them here if you want to. If you are syncing from Schoology to eSchool, this part really doesn't matter, because once the grades get into eSchool, that weight distribution is going to happen there anyways. But if you want your gradebook in eSchool to match your gradebook in Schoology, then you would adjust the weight right here. Under here, you would have your 4 marking periods. I have unlimited here just because this is one of my demonstration courses, but you would have your 4 marking periods. And then the weights here would be, or the percentages would be 25%. I would keep it as numeric, leave all this the same. Check your settings here, and you can also check your visibility settings. So these will hide the overall grade in the student grade report. So this takes a percentage of all of the grades for the whole entire school year. So if you don't want students to see that, or you feel like students don't need to see that, maybe they don't need to see it until the 4th marking period, then you can turn that on and then hide the grading period grades in student gradebook. So if you click that on, then that means that the students won't see their average, their final score for that marking period until you turn it on or turn it off. They'll still see their grades for each assignment. So theoretically they could add them up and like take a percentage and figure out their grade. But maybe you're telling students, don't even, just look there at assignments, don't look at your final grades. Then you can leave that on and students won't see their grades for the whole school year or for the marking period. And we just like to remind teachers that eSchool is the final grade reporting system for Red Clay. That's where students use Home Access Center and parents use Home Access Center, and that's where report cards are generated from. So that's really the final grade. That's where final grades will be reported for students, and where you should keep your grade books up to date as the marking period goes along. But feel free to use Schoology as well. You can use that for all of your grading as well. Just make sure that you continue to update eSchool. Okay, so this was grade setup. Oh, you can also, especially if you have multiple courses, you could copy these settings to your other courses. This is especially helpful if you have, like, you teach 3 sections of English 10 and you've set this up, then you can just copy these settings and choose which courses you want to copy them to and copy. So then you don't need to go into each one and adjust them. Okay, so let's take a look at the gradebook. So the reason that we added categories is because you need to add categories to your materials in order for them to show up in the gradebook. So let's take a look at my materials quick. So I have some materials here. Some of them I've added a grading category for. So let's just do edit. This one happens to not have a grading category, so I've left it as ungraded, so it won't show up in my grade book. Maybe it's something that is like class participation, or it's a center and I'm not going to grade it, so that's why I've left it ungraded. You can change that whenever you want, and it can go into your grade book or be taken out. So you see I have multiple things there, but I only have 5 things in my grade book. So these are the only 5 things that I've given categories to. So now they're in my grade book. My student, this is my student account, Kid Callbach. She has completed some of the assignments and or some of the materials, and then the teacher graded them, and now here are the scores in the grade book. you'll see once I get over some of these assessments or materials, I could just adjust the grade right here. So see, I just changed it. It works just like your gradebook in eSchool. Really, it kind of looks the same way. So you have your students over here, your assignments up at the top. See, I'm hovering over them, and then a pop-up comes up and tells me the name, the grading category. Once you get over on the assignments, there is a flag here. So this is where I would mark if a student is absent or I want to put incomplete or missing. You can also put a comment here. So we could add a comment and show it to the student if you want to. Underneath the assignment, there's 3 little dots. So this part really works like eSchool does. You can set all the grades to a score. So let's set them all to 80. So now all of the students have the same score. That's like bulk editing. You can edit the assignment right here if you want to. So right there, just brought it up so I can edit it. And then over here, you have the 3 little dots. And this is a good place to print reports. So you could print your student grade reports from your gradebook. And you can also do bulk editing here. So this is good for teachers who like to build their courses over the summer. We've seen a couple of teachers who will get all of their courses together and then copy or add their materials to their course right at the beginning of the summer or right at the beginning of when school starts. And then they can use this bulk edit feature and just add their grading categories and their points right here instead of going into each part or into each material and opening it. You can do it all right here with bulk edit. Some teachers will, another reason why we tell teachers to primarily use eSchool as their final grade reporting place is because sometimes there could be assignments or lessons that you grade that don't take place online. So those assignments or those tasks would be on eSchool. So you would add the assignment there and do the grading there because it really had nothing to do with Schoology. But Schoology does have a place where you can add assignments or activities or things that you want to be graded that aren't on Schoology. So then you could still do all your grading here and sync all of this still to eSchool. If you click this plus sign right here, here's quickly where you could add an assignment, test, quiz, discussion, but you have this one at the bottom, add grade column. So this is just a place where you're adding the column and you're providing the grades. So this might be like, I'm just putting like a science experiment. So this is something maybe I walked around the room and had a checklist and I was grading. So I could still add that in here, create. So there's not a material in Schoology, but now I would go down and give the grades because I have my checklist and I'm going off of what was there. Okay, so that's an option. And see, it's not green. There's nothing to click, like my assignment won't open because it's just a grade column. Okay. So now let's think about mastery. So grading, the grade book is all those number grades, letter grades. So mastery is, and I'm clicking it over here on the left, is another feature of Schoology. And this has to do with learning standards and learning objectives. So along with adding a grading category to your materials in Schoology, you can also tag them to standards. So you see really closely here, this is a little target. So we'll show you next week along with individually assigned like these little buttons in materials. Wherever you see a little target like this first one, it's only 1 instead of the 3. You can tag learning standards to those materials. So usually it's in an assignment. it's a discussion, and it's test quiz questions. So that's why in an assessment, you could be assessing multiple standards because you could tag the questions to those standards. You can also tag anything to as many standards as you want, because we know that sometimes a question or a discussion or an assignment could test multiple standards. So here are some standards along the top. So I'm hovering over them so you can see the name. These are standards that in my materials, I have tagged them to. It's not all the standards. They're only the ones that I've tagged questions or assignments to. So once you click, if you want to click on the standard, this will show you the standard and then the assignment or the multiple times that this standard was tested. If you click on a student, so I'm going to click on my student account. Here's a really nice report, I think. The standards, and let's scroll down. Here's a good one, this one right here. So this is the standard. It tells what it is, explain how a series of chapters fit together, provide overall structure of a particular story, drama, or poem. So this was tested on this assessment, and the student got all of the times that it was assessed correct. It was also assessed on this demo assignment, and the student got an 80% on that. So then the average was a 90. So this shows how many times the student was assessed on the standard and then their average score. Okay. And then if you click, so this is student achievement, let's click learning objectives. And this might not look as nice because we don't have a whole lot of data, but so this would give a range. This is for the teacher, and this would show a range of the students and how they performed on each standard on each assignment. So these mastery standards, or these colors here, you might be wondering how they got there, or how they were determined. So I'm going to click this gear right here and click mastery settings. So this is where you adjust those settings. So here I'm saying meets expectations. So if I am deciding what percentage students need to get in order for me to know that they have met the standard. So right now it's set at 50. Let's just adjust that. So let's say I think students meet at 70. Students would exceed expectations if they get a 90% on the standard. And then this star indicates mastery. So meet or exceed expectations at least how many times to show me that they have mastered this standard. So really, in my opinion, it should be a couple of times. So let's just say 4 times. So they need to meet or exceeds on this standard 4 times in order to show me that they've mastered it. So let's save. And now you'll see the colors will adjust a little bit. These numbers here indicate how many times the standard was tested. And so you see now my stars are gone because they haven't been assessed 4 times or more. So that's how you would adjust that. And then up here at the top, it's the student averages. So this shows the average of how the students performed on the standard. Okay, in order for the mastery scores to come up, like I said, the assignment or the material has to be in the gradebook. So if it's not in the gradebook, it won't show up in mastery. And it gets in the gradebook by you adding a grading category and the total points.